Good evening, everyone. If everyone could just take their seats, we'll start the program for tonight's affairs. Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone to this amazing event. Marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan. I would like to start with the welcome to country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are today, the Darug and Tharawal people, and all other places in our beautiful country, Australia. I acknowledge elders, past, present, and emerging, as the custodians of the longest living culture in the world. This land is and always will be Aboriginal land. Now tonight we have an amazing program set up for everyone that is attending, not just here, but also online through our live streaming. We'll be starting off this evening with the opening ceremony. Then we'll move on to our celebrated dignitaries and our keynote speakers. Today we have the special event of honouring the high school students that have achieved a high level in their HSC, despite all of the burdens and the sufferings from the previous year. They managed to emerge through, and tonight we really have a great celebration for them lined up. As well as the high school students, there is another industry that had to go through a lot in the previous 12 months, and that is the healthcare industry, which we would like to recognise and put forward our support tonight. In the later parts of the evening, we're going to be experiencing some traditional and multicultural performances to celebrate the multicultural network that we call Australia. Whilst that's going on, we'll also be treating ourselves to some fine food and finishing off at around 9 p.m. with a closing ceremony. I would just like to give a few notes. On your table you'll see a piece of paper which is available for you to leave your notes and impressions. Throughout the evening I'll be gathering those and reading some of those out, because it'd be great to get some feedback and to spread some of the comments and some of the energy that people in the audience might have. Further to that, we also have a little selfie box over there if anyone wants to take some photos. It's some great promotion. It looks good on your social media feed, as well as it's a great promotion for Australia Day. It's a great Australia Day event, as well as an Iraqi event that we're all very proud of to be part of today. Now, without further ado, I would like to start with a video about the story of Australia.
The story of Australia
is the story of me.
It's the story of you.
It's a story of we.
In parts, it is painful.
In parts, it is raw.
In others, it's beautiful.
Inspiring great awe.
It tells of many people from far and away,
And those who've been here
since the beginning of time.
It brings us together
and tears us apart.
we all have our views.
So where do we start?
By listening to each other.
And sharing our part.
We're all part of the story. Australia Day.
The Aboriginal story. Indigenous Australia's oral tradition and religious values are based upon reverence for the land and a belief in the Dreamtime. Indigenous people learn from their stories that they are interconnected with the rest of creation. They believe that past and future generations must be included in their perception of their purpose in life. Indigenous farming methods were very sophisticated and extensive. Grindstones found in New South Wales had been used to grind seeds more than 30,000 years ago. Aboriginal people had sophisticated number systems, and they navigated using stars and oral maps. The Yolngu people in the Northern Territory long recognised how the tides are linked to the phases of the moon. Aboriginal people had figured out how eclipses work and knew how the planets move differently from the stars. They used this knowledge to regulate the cycles of travel from one place to another. Australia's multiculturalism has been a great success story, mainly because immigration policies have been carefully planned and implemented. Cultural differences are embraced when they are consistent with living in an Australian democracy. Migrants aren't expected to remain mere guests. Rather, they are encouraged to become fellow citizens of equal standing in society. Any right to express one's cultural identity and heritage has been accompanied by a commitment to liberal democratic values. Immigrants have played a vital role in generating business activity and driving economic growth in Australia. And finally, we come to Iraq. Iraqi ancient civilization was amongst the oldest in the world. In its early history, Iraq welcomed the different groups that was attracted to its fertile land and abundance of water. It has always been the homeland for multicultural populations of different ethnic and religious backgrounds. Members of the Iraqi community in Australia have participated in serving their new homeland in all fields of life. Many Iraqi Australian doctors, scientists, scholars, community workers, and other active personalities have had great achievements in serving this blessed country. Iraqi Australian University Graduate Forum and many other Iraqi Australian organisations have worked to support the Iraqi community to be active participants in serving the Australian society. On Australia Day, we reflect, respect and celebrate. Those three words you'll hear a lot of tonight. We reflect on our nation's true history, which began tens of thousands of years ago with the first Australians, the world's oldest living culture, and on the impact that European settlement had on our first Australians and their way of life. We respect their extensive knowledge of land, sea and sky, which allowed them to care for country as they would a family member. And we reflect on our modern history, the waves of immigration that have shaped us into one of the world's great multicultural success stories. Now, this evening is about Australia Day, but it's also about the fantastic outcome that the Iraqi population has contributed to Australia. Part of that are the Iraqi students that I mentioned earlier this evening have achieved an amazing outcome in the past 12 months. And really, it's not an outcome that they just generated in the last 12 months. It's something that they've worked towards their whole lives, something that their parents have worked for, undoubtedly, their whole lives, and done many things, many sacrifices, many contributions that largely go unrecognised. So tonight is a night where we hope to recognise the achievements of the students that have achieved highly, their families that have supported them, their parents that have made countless sacrifices to ensure that they were able to achieve their educational dreams, which they are one step closer, probably not finished yet, but one step closer to achieving after tonight. So I would like to get the Iraqi students to come in front of everyone and enjoy the celebration that we have in store for them tonight. There's a few things in store. We've got a little celebration coming up in the later parts of the evening, and we've got a number of awards to be handing out to the students this evening. So without further ado, it'd be great if we could all welcome the Iraqi students of Australia. An absolutely amazing achievement. If I could get everybody please just to stand up, we're going to be playing the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth fertile. Our home is God's
Thank you very much. Students, if you could be seated, that'd be fantastic. We'll be calling you out shortly just so you could receive your awards. Well, without further ado, just a little side note. Actually, the national anthem, for those who might not know, they're actually changing it. There's a slight little change. Instead of "For we are young and free," it's going to be changed to "We are one and free." And I think there's no surprises that there's a controversy with the date of Australia Day. And I think the whole message that we're trying to push today, and I think it's also announced in the national anthem change, is that we are trying to be as inclusive as possible. It's trying to include as many communities, as many ethnic groups, and of course give recognition to the Aboriginal people who are the real owners of this land. So, we have with us a bunch of special guests this evening who will be assisting with handing out some of the awards to the Iraqi students. So I would like to first welcome the Mayor, Mr. Frank Carbone, to the stage. Now, Frank was elected to Fairfield City Council in September 2008 and is a proud local who was born and raised in Fairfield. He will be handing out this evening's first awards to our Iraqi students. So students, when I call out your name, if you could come up so that we can hand you your award, please. First, Dina Lazar. Good. Give her a clap, guys. Dina Lazar scored 91.35 in her ATAR. She goes to Good Samaritan Catholic College. Oh, sorry, just Salam Safi. .85, Epping Boys High School. If some of the students aren't here this evening, they'll be joining us online. Unfortunately, we can't hand an award to them if they're online, but that's going to be sent out to them later after this event. Our next student, Athra Daif, 93.15. Athra goes to All Saints Catholic College. Good. Next we've got Nurhan Al-Janabi. Nurhan scored 94.25 and attends Alpha Omega Senior College. Congratulations, Nurhan. Elaf Abu Darab, 94.25. Elaf attends Al Faisal College. Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor Carbone. Next, if I could call Anne Stanley, Ms. Anne Stanley, member for Werriwa, New South Wales. Ms. Anne Stanley was elected in 2016 and re-elected in 2019. She is a champion and advocate of the Australian, Torres Strait and Islander people. Recently giving a speech to Parliament ensuring adequate food and water supplies are given to Australian Torres Strait Islander communities during COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks for being with us here tonight. Next up in our awards we have Ali Hassan, scoring 95.3. We're now breaking into the 95s from Al Faisal College. This must be a good school. It's very popular. And now we have Ali Sinaram, scoring 95.4, again from Al Faisal College. Well done. Next up we have Natalie Takriti, scoring 95.65. Natalie goes to Good Samaritan Catholic College. Congratulations, Natalie. And now we have Mohammed Sharif from Rossmoyne Senior High School, scoring 95.8. Must be one of our online participants. Thank you, Miss Ann Stanley. Appreciate your time. I would now like to welcome to the stage Mr. Guy Zangari, member for Fairfield. Mr. Zangari has a long history in Australian politics, but prior, due to my own research, he was a teacher for over 16 years. Is that right? That's right. A teacher in the Fairfield and surrounding areas. Now obviously very relevant for today's purposes, highlighting the importance of teaching, the role that teachers have in our community, and the importance of education. Thanks for being with us tonight. Next up we have Alms El Janabi, 95.85. Alms comes from Amity College. Next up, Rita Bayard, 96.6. Each one's getting a little bit closer. Good Samaritan Catholic College. Well done, Rita. Now we have Cynthia Barber, scoring 97.6. Fantastic work, Cynthia. Cynthia comes from Bosley Park High School. Thank you, Mr. Zangari. Next up, I would like to call Nathan Haggerty, who is a councillor from Liverpool Council. Huda Zahed, 98.1. We're now cracked into the 98s, people. It's getting better and better. Alpha Omega Senior High School. Myrna Matti, 98.45. Good Samaritan Catholic College. It's our fourth student from Good Samaritan Catholic College. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. We now have the next two students tuning in from Melbourne. Outstanding results. One to Hussein El Fiad, scoring 98.7. Sorry, I'd like to call Mazhar Hadid, Councillor for Liverpool, New South Wales. Next, we have another student in Melbourne, Mohammed Al-Jawhari, scoring 98.9 from Sirius College, Meadowfair Campus. Hani will be grabbing the award on their behalf, both of their behalves. Next up we have Amir Saleh, also appearing from Melbourne, scoring 99.2. Yeah, I know. Amir is attending Sirius College from Meadowfair Campus. Next we have Mina Bashar Kirio, 99.4 from Mercy College, Coburg. Thank you, Mr. Hadid. I've still got it. I would like to call Dr. Bushra Al-Obaid to hand out our final three awards. Dr. Bushra is the 2020 Fairfield Woman of the Year. She's one of the core leaders of the Iraqi Australian University Graduate Forum. And she's here to announce the final awards and present the final awards. Fadi Jan, 99.05 from Good Samaritan Catholic College. Then we have in Melbourne, Russell Al-Rubai scoring 99.45. Russell attends Sirius College, Meadowfair campus. We're well into the 99s now. 99, it's amazing. Next we have Abbas Al-Husseinawi, 99.65 from Al Faisal College. Another amazing student from Al Faisal College, well done. $99.65, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the highest achiever, who's unfortunately in Melbourne this evening, Mr. Ali Shaban, scoring 99.75. Ali attends Sirius College in Melbourne, which undoubtedly must be a fantastic school. I've had 4 students from there this evening. Thank you, everyone. Everyone give the students a massive round of applause for all of their hard work. Next segment is the speeches. The speeches. Yeah, the next segment. Fantastic work by our students. We can all appreciate the hard work that they've put in. Them and their families have undoubtedly put in years and years of hard work that we're hoping to just give a small amount of recognition this evening. Now tonight we have some fantastic guests with us. I would like to start off by introducing Dr. Bushra back to the stage. Dr. Bushra, of course, needs very little introduction. Everybody here would definitely know who she is. She's one of the core leaders of the Iraqi Australia University Graduates Forum and has a few words of wisdom, I think, for us this evening. Thank you, Dr. Bushra.
Hi, everybody. Wow, very emotional. I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respect to the Capricorn people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered today. I would like to pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Now welcoming the Honorable Ms. Anna Stanley, MP, Member for Wariwa. The Honorable Mr. Guy Zingari, MP, State Member for Fairfield. Mr. Frank Carboni, Mayor of Fairfield. Mr. Mizher Hadid, Deputy Mayor of Liverpool. Councillor Nathan Hagarty, Liverpool Council. Ms. Yasmina from START. Mr. John Boraho and Murshid Amir from CORE. And Mrs. Yamama Agha from SSI. And then Professor Munjid Al-Mudarris, 2020 New South Wales Australian of the Year. Give him a little bit of applause. We are really proud of him. Thank you for accepting our invitation to celebrate Australia Day. Through celebrating the outstanding achievements of our HSC students and a number of medical practitioners whose dedication and sacrifice participated in keeping us safe in these difficult times of COVID-19 pandemic. We gather today to celebrate Australia Day, to celebrate the different things that made us proud and honored to be part of the ancient story of this wonderful land. The story of the oldest living civilization, which started with a dream of exceptional people who embraced the land, respected all forms of life, and lived in harmony with nature. From them, we learn that we are all connected And the real meaning of life is to serve others and be part of a world that embraces everyone and everything around us. We gather today to express our love to Australia, the land of colors, beauty and harmony, the land that embraced our troubled hearts, acknowledged our fears and cares, and welcomed us to be part of its journey toward a better future for everyone, without exception. For us, and for me personally, Australia is not just another country to live in. It is everything we have yearned for, like peace after years of war and violence, especially we Iraqis, we suffered a lot. Safety after years of fear and uncertainty, and freedom after years of oppression and dictatorship. In addition to all of what makes Australia magnificent is another thing. Here we don't need to change to be accepted. Our differences are embraced. Our culture is celebrated. And we are fully supported in our journey to settle down and flourish. But also, what keeps Australia great is the will and hard work of migrants who have brought their invaluable knowledge and skills, which participated in building this land along with a better future for its people. Members of the Iraqi community in Australia have been active participants in advancing this wonderful country, and they played remarkable roles in all fields of life. And this gathering shows just one example of our community's outstanding achievement, and it shows a glimpse of what we are capable of. In the Iraqi-Australian University Graduate Forum, we have embraced practices similar to the Australian government's policy. We believe that differences make life richer and the world a better place for humanity. For more than 13 years, we have cooperated with other private organizations and government agencies to support our community, to promote multiculturalism and tolerance, and to invest in a better future for Australia. Happy Australia Day, and thank you again for being here with us. Now I will speak like a few words in Arabic. أعزائي الحضور، نرحب بكم أجمل ترحيب ونشكركم للاحتفال مشاركتنا الاحتفال بيوم أستراليا الوطني، وللاحتفاء بقيم المواطنة والتعددية والحرية وكل القيم السامية التي يؤمن بها هذا البلد الطيب. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you, Dr. Bushra, for some fantastic words. I think we can all gain a lot from that. Next, I would like to call to the stage Federal Member for Werriwa, Ms. Anne Stanley. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and can I also start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet tonight and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And further to that, I recognise that this weekend for our First Nations people is very difficult, and it is something that we should have a mature and reasonable debate about very soon. Can I also thank Dr. Bushra and the volunteers of the Iraqi Graduates Forum for the invitation tonight, acknowledge my parliamentary colleague, Guy Sangari, the member for Fairfield, the Mayor of Fairfield, Frank Carboni, the Deputy Mayor of Liverpool, Mazar Hadid, and Nathan Haggerty, Councillor at Liverpool Council. But more importantly, can I acknowledge all of the wonderful work that has been showcased here tonight. You don't get scores over 90 in your HSC without a lot of heartache, hard work and terror, fear and joy. So congratulations to all of those people who were awarded these things tonight. But more importantly, congratulations to your teachers and your families who helped you through. You may not have noticed, but trust me, in years to come when you have your own children, you'll know just how much other people and your wider community helped and supported you through to get those. Can I also acknowledge, I know that later this evening we're acknowledging healthcare professionals, doctors and so forth that have been on the front line in the last almost more than 12 months now with the COVID-19 pandemic. I can only imagine how difficult, how scary that has been for you, and with all our hearts, our community thanks you so much for everything that you have done for us. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Anne. I would now like to welcome Mr. Guy Zangari, Member for Fairfield. Some of your experiences as a teacher.
Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I too would like to acknowledge traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders both past, present and emerging. For some of us who are sons and daughters of migrants, or maybe some of us who are migrants or refugees, we must always acknowledge that this place was cared for and nurtured for 40,000 years before we arrived, and I concur with the comments by Anne Stanley, the federal member for Werriwa. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the Mayor of this place, of Fairfield, Mayor Carboni, Frank Carboni, as well as the Deputy Mayor of Liverpool, Mazhar Hadid, and to my good friend Councillor Nathan Haggerty from Liverpool City Council. But to all the representatives who are here from non-government agencies and Settlement Services International and STARTS, to Dr. Bushra Al-Obaidi, the President of the Iraqi Australian University Graduate Forum, and to Hassam Sakara, the Executive Member, to you all. I've been asked to focus in very briefly in 2 minutes on the contribution of migrants to this great country, Australia. As we all know, Australia, modern Australia, was built on the back of blood, sweat and tears by migrants. And you only need to look at the infrastructure projects that we benefit from now. For example, the Snowy Mountains River Scheme, the Hydro River Scheme down there, where thousands of migrants contributed in the construction, in the planning, whether they were boilermakers, form workers, engineers, geologists. They all contributed to what is one of the greatest pieces of infrastructure ever built in this country. Closer to home, many migrants contributed to the Warragamba Dam project. Over years and years of planning and work went in there, and some migrants lost their lives building that project for us to have fresh water today, and we always acknowledge them. But it's not just in construction that migrants have contributed to. Migrants in Australia have contributed to politics, science, the arts, sport, and the list goes on and on and on. But if you look at the room tonight, the sons and daughters of migrants are the future of where our country is going, and that is just remarkable. So on behalf of myself, the electorate that I represent, and I'm sure all of my parliamentary colleagues and the mayors, we say to those academic achievers, congratulations and best wishes, because you are the next generation of pioneers to make this country just keep going, and that's really, really important. Dr. Bushra touched on the efforts, and so did Anne Stanley, the efforts of our other migrants who are here in the room, and of course we are talking about our healthcare professionals, all from Iraqi backgrounds, who over the last 12 months have dug in deep and continue to do that, administering in what is a very, very difficult time. So I think the teachers had it tough this year, and so did the students, but I'm sure that you would agree with me that the acknowledgement of the doctors and the healthcare professionals who will be acknowledged tonight is something that really we all must dig deep and thank them very much. So on your behalf, to all those healthcare professionals who are here tonight, thank you very much from the bottom of our heart for the contributions you have made last year and continue. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you for that, for some fantastic words. Definitely a lot to take from that. The students from today, our future leaders, I love that line. You're going to be holding the torch for the next generation, so just remember that. Your pains have just started. Finally, I would like to welcome to the stage, Finally, I'd like to welcome to the stage 2019 New South Wales Australian of the Year, Dr. Munjid Al Mudarris. Now, Dr. Munjid has an extremely esteemed background. His achievements, I tried to research them myself, and I just found I couldn't do anything justice to try and list them all out today. He's done some fantastic work helping amputees walk again. He's done amazing research and breakthrough medical procedures that is now at the forefront of the world. So not only is he a leader in our community, but he's also a pioneer for the medical field throughout the world. So that blows my mind. That's absolutely fantastic. Give him a round of applause. It's amazing. Few words. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me here, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, past, present and emerging. We celebrate on Tuesday Australia Day. Australia Day carries with it a lot of controversy. To some, it's a day of occupation, and to others, it's a day of celebration. But what's important is that we all need to remember that Australia Day should always be celebrated a day of unity, tolerance, and not just that, but acceptance of each other, regardless of our color, faith, ethnicity, or background. A lot of you here have come from different backgrounds and migrated to this country. When you leave your homeland, the land that you were born in or your family were born in, you get detached from your roots. And it may take very long time to grow new roots in a different place, in another place. I'm one of the people that left Iraq. I was forced to leave Iraq. I never wanted to leave that country. But I found Australia to become a new home for me, and it took some time. You would face some discrimination, you would face people who don't like your color, don't like your values, and may not share your beliefs. But that may lead to two paths. One path is that you become locked up in a silo and live in a small community where you cannot express your feeling to the rest and to the wider community, or you integrate and you assimilate. And the best way of integration is by education, and is by sharing your experience that you brought up from your homeland and learning from people who live in this land. And by doing that, you will enrich yourself and you will teach others different values, and you become stronger. And then you may become an ambassador for this country, like many other people here in the room. Finally, I would like to say to the new graduates, good luck, well done, you made us proud, and one advice I will give you, the future is bright for all of you, and make fun, have fun, and enjoy your life, because life is too short and you live it only once. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Munjid, for those amazing words. Hopefully, the students of this evening took some inspiration for that. I'm sure I did. A lot to be gained, and a lot of knowledge to be gained just by listening to these words from a pioneer of his field. We've heard a lot about Australia Day today. We've heard a lot about the contributions that communities have made towards this beautiful country. We reflect on the selfless and courageous sacrifice of thousands of frontline workers and volunteers. The Iraqi community has assisted and helped throughout the last 12 months overcome and continuously fight the battle that we face ourselves in this last 12 months. We reflect on their contribution to our lives, putting the safety and well-being of others before their own, to support their communities and to keep our nation going. We reflect on the resilience of communities and the spirit of helping and giving that defines the Australian spirit. We respect stories, histories, and contributions of all Australians, especially those who sacrificed so much over the last year. We do have an outstanding number of medical staff, doctors, that have been on the front line in the last 12 months throughout the country. Unfortunately, not every single one of them can be here tonight, as they are largely interstate, in different states. However, we do have some here, which would be fantastic to acknowledge and give our many thanks to for their contributions. We're going to be starting the medical award presentation. Next up, we have a presentation. This evening's presentation by Dr. Ahmed Al-Rubai. Dr. Ahmed is an associate professor at the University of New South Wales, well-known community leader, one of the core leaders of the Iraqi Australian University Graduate Forum, and the manager at the Iraqi Australian Medical Association. This evening he has a presentation prepared for us in relation to Australia's response and experience in fighting COVID-19. If you could join me in a round of applause for Dr. Ahmed. Thank you.
Good evening. I think we can't celebrate Australia Day without going through Australia legacy in its role, exceptional role, in fact, in fighting Corona. There is no doubt that Corona pandemic is by far the most challenging crisis our globe and humankind is facing since World War II. It is in fact more global than this war, as there is no boundaries for its battle. Corona is everywhere within our rank. It is the unseen enemy. It impacted every single aspect of our lives as individual, communities, and organizations at all levels. With this catastrophic impact on economy, the majority of countries are going into deep recession, with unprecedented increase in the unemployment, bankruptcy, and even social unrest. The challenges of this pandemic imposed on health system and government worldwide is unprecedented since the Spanish flu more than 100 years ago. I'll try to have some slide to move between them. There's a huge global toll. All countries, without any exemption, paid for that. Up until late last night, we have more than 98 million cases of corona, with more than 2 million fatalities. Many countries, including highly developed ones, are still far from containing the corona spread. New waves, particularly those including the mutated strains of corona, is still crippling most of the countries. As such, this pandemic put the world government, organization, and communities on the line. All are tested against such exceptional challenge in terms of their efficiency, competence, compliance, and the balance between society health and economy status. If we come to the Australia toll, there is a consensus at the pandemic authorities worldwide that Australia has done very well in the fight against corona at all levels of this fight. The Australian numbers up until late last night are 28,759 cases with 909 deaths. Australia is among only very few countries with such a low level of infection percentage. And to put this number in the context, we need to compare it with other countries. I wouldn't compare with the United States, where we have 24,822,000 cases with a death of 414,000 up until late last night. I'll compare Australia with a small country, with Denmark, with a population of around 5.8 million. It's almost 1/4 the population of Australia. The number of total cases of corona there is 193,000, with 1,941 deaths. This is a small country, a developed country also. I think Australia's response was exceptional in reaction to the spread of this pandemic. The first recorded case of corona in Australia was on the 25th of January, just one day following the first detected case in Europe. In less than 3 weeks following that, we have already the health sector emergency response plan, a full detailed plan on the response of the health sector to the pandemic. That is even before the WHO declaring corona as pandemic in the 11th of March. A day after that, a day later, the Australian government announced the first round of business/welfare financial assistance of $17.6 billion. On the 17th of March, we talk about 3 weeks following the detection of corona, all international travel was banned, and a few days later, the lockdown started, followed by closing the border altogether. On the 22nd of March, we're still talking about within the same month, the second round of business, financial, and welfare assistance was introduced with $66 billion. A third round of $130 billion was released a week later, which make the total rescue fund more than $213 billion to help business and to establish the safety net package, which include job keepers payment, mental health, telehealth services, family violence prevention, and food provision. In about 6 weeks, Australia managed to have the number of cases declining. And at the end of the 7th week, the curve of infection already flattened. This happened with the first wave. And similar story happened with the second wave, which was mainly in Victoria. It took about 2 months plus to have the curve flatten and the problem contained. The fiscal response of Australia is the biggest worldwide. That's comparing, and I have figures, unfortunately, the PowerPoint from here cannot be controlled. Might stop a few seconds here to pass. These slides all on the impact, the financial, economic impact of corona on the world, on major countries with the recessions, unemployment, and this is a snapshot from last night about the latest number of the cases, deaths in each country. Okay, it's a bit distant here. Anyhow, these are the total number up until last year in each of the states. Yeah, chamber, but we can't reach from here. I would like to finish by highlighting the Iraqi community response. The Iraqi Australasian Medical Association, which represents the vast majority of Iraqi doctors in different states of Australia, started just a few weeks after the discovery of the first case, started a campaign to raise awareness and educate, targeting both Arabic community and health professionals. A series of presentations and talks and webinars about corona and about its nature, impact. At that time, no one knows much about corona. It's a completely new virus, and the organization kept every 6 to 8 weeks updating the community with any update regarding to the criteria of the virus, treatment, and currently the vaccination. We use lectures, webinars, and social media on Facebook in this campaign. We approached in the IAMA, the Iraqi Australasian Medical Association, community leaders and religious centers, and held several sessions through the Zoom platform and ethnic media, particularly the SBS Arabic and the Arabic Network, to update the community about the prevention of corona spread and implementing the health authority restrictions. We in Niyama we are starting a campaign regarding preparing the community to the wide vaccination, which is coming in the second half of February. Of the other forms of the Iraqi community response is the participation of many Iraqi doctors and health professionals in the front lines of the fight against corona. And today we have the pleasure of honoring 34 of them. We have in the room 10 of them, and the rest of them are from interstates. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that detailed presentation. We'll now start with the awards for the medical professionals. And first I would like to welcome to the stage Ms. Anne Stanley to hand those awards. Thank you. Now, as mentioned, it is a great thing that we have so many doctors, so many Iraqi doctors to be awarding tonight. That does mean there are a lot of names to be announcing. Some of them are going to be interstate, so those that are interstate, Dr. Ahmed will be receiving their awards on their behalf, and they will be sent to them after the evening. Bear in mind there are quite a few names. Keep in mind after that we do have still quite an extensive program. We've got some dance performances coming up, some poetry, and a surprise later on this evening. So without further ado, I would like to announce Dr. Rasha Al Yassin from the ACT receiving the first award. She's not here this evening. From Victoria, Dr. Marwa Al Duhaimi. Again from Victoria, Dr. Safa Wahid. From New South Wales, Dr. Vienna Burko. Dr. Vienna is at Fairfield Respiratory Clinic as an RMO. Dr. Khalid Al Zubaydi from New South Wales. Dr. Farah Ibrahim, New South Wales. Dr. Hussein Al Aboudi, Victoria. Also from Victoria, Dr. Siba Suleiman. Also from Victoria, Dr. Haida Al Abaidi. From New South Wales, Dr. Alia Al Alousi. Thank you, Ms. Anne Stanley, for your help this evening. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mayor Frank Carboni. Thank you. First, from New South Wales, Dr. Samad Tuza. From New South Wales, Dr. Salam Tuza. From New South Wales, Dr. Sarah Afram. From the ACT, Dr. Ali Al-Tamimi. From Victoria, Dr. Hassanein Al-Tamimi. From New South Wales, Dr. Faris Wardi. He's here. He's a local at Fairfield. From New South Wales, Dr. Ayad Al-Saad. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Guy Zangari, member for Fairfield. Dr. Virgin Hanna from New South Wales. Dr. Milad Shlimon from New South Wales. Dr. Faraz Abuna from New South Wales. Thank you, Mr. Carboni. Thank you very much. I'd like to call to the stage Mr. Hadid, Deputy Mayor. Which one? Dr. Rowan Naum from New South Wales. Dr. Haidar Abbas from Tasmania. From Tasmania, Mersey Hospital, Dr. Marwan Al-Bana. From Tasmania, Mersey Hospital, Dr. Ammar Jawad. Tasmania, Mersey Hospital, Dr. Rana Al-Janabi. From Tasmania, also Mersey Hospital, Dr. Mundadar Al-Shwawi. From Victoria, Dr. Marwa Al-Bana. Thank you, Mr. Hadid. I would like to call up Mr. Nathan Haggerty. Dr. Salim Al-Khoury from ACT. From South Australia, Dr. Ahmed Al-Karagoli. From South Australia, Flinders Hospital, Dr. Russell Al-Janabi. From New South Wales, Dr. Fadi Abuna. From New South Wales, Dr. Muntadhar Naji. From New South Wales, Dr. Dalia Obeid. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. That's all of the medical professionals from this evening, all 33 doctors and medical staff who have been helping out with the COVID-19 crisis. Please give them a round of applause for their fantastic efforts. Thank you. Amazing work by our medical professionals. I just wanted to share the way that we all connect, combine with one another is through storytelling. And there are no better storytellers than the traditional landowners of this country. One of those stories that I think if you grew up in Australia, you would know quite well is the story about the rainbow serpent, something that we covered extensively in primary school. Some people here, they might not have gone through the education system and didn't learn these things, so I thought I would give a small recap about the story of the rainbow serpent so that we can connect with our Aboriginal Background: Rainbow serpent. At the beginning of the dream time, the earth was flat and dry and empty. There were no trees, no rivers, no animal and no grass. It was a dry, flat land. One day, Guriala, the rainbow serpent, woke from his sleep and set off to find his tribe. He crossed Australia from east to west and north to south, stopping to listen for his people. He crossed every part of the dry, flat Australia but found nothing. After searching for a long time, he grew tired and lay down to sleep. The land he lay down to sleep on was not the same land he had set out to search for his people on. As he had looked for his people, his big, long body had cut great gouges into the land. Guriala lay in the sand all alone until he decided to create more life in the world. He called, "Frogs, come out!" And frogs rose out of the ground with their bellies full of water they stored. He tickled the frogs until the water burst from their mouth and filled the gouges in the land. These gouges made the rivers and streams we see today. As the water flowed over the land, grass and trees began to grow and fill the land with colour. Now that there was grass to eat and water to drink, Guriala woke the animals. The kookaburra laughed, the goanna walked, and the wombat climbed out of her burrow, all for the first time. Some animals lived in the sea. Some animals lived in the sky. Some animals lived on the land. The rainbow serpent made rules that all animals had to obey. He said, "All animals that obey the rules will be rewarded by becoming humans. The animals that disobey the rules will be punished." Some animals followed the rules and were rewarded. Others were disobedient and were turned into the stones that made the mountains. One day it started to rain, and it rained like it had never rained before. Two young men, Bilbil or the Rainbow Lorikeet brothers, had no shelter, and they came to the rainbow serpent. They asked for help sheltering from the rain. The rainbow serpent was hungry and tricked the young men. "I have no shelter, but you can hide in my mouth. You'll be safe from the rain in there." The young men climbed into Guriala's mouth, and he closed it shut, swallowing both men. He soon realized that people would notice the young men missing and come looking for them. He knew they would find their track leading right into his mouth. He didn't want to be caught, and so decided to hide in the only place that he knew to be safe. Who knows where that is? In the sky. He hid in the sky from the people chasing him, and he saw their sadness at losing these two young men. He decided to try and make them happy again, so he turned his body into a big arc of beautiful colours. Now every time, just after it rains, you can see the rainbow serpent sharing his beautiful colours with the people on the ground as his way of saying sorry for taking those rainbow Lorikeet brothers. That's the story of the rainbow serpent.